Hey, in this video, we're talking about how to increase your confidence as a coach. And confidence is really more about self-esteem than it is even confidence. So we're going to make that distinction, dissect it all. And this will be important not just for you and your coaching business, but for your clients as well. We're going to get into, this was actually one of the coaching concepts that I'd considered putting in that How to Change a Life series, because it just shows up everywhere.
Yes.
It shows up so often in coaching, and it's based on typical programming that we have as humans. And what it is the required separation between or from person and performer. We're going to get into that in a moment. But the deeper concept that we're playing with here is the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. I see these words used interchangeably, and they are nothing like each other. They are nowhere near the same, like opposite ends of the spectrum different.
Sure.
And the reason that's so important to understand is that if you need one of them, but you're searching for the other, or you think you need the other one, therefore that's why you're searching for it, then you're actually going in the opposite direction. I mean, if self-esteem is over here and confidence is over here, and you think what you need is esteem, and so you go in this direction, let's say you're right here where this beautiful Shure SM7B microphone is right here. If you're here, I need to give it a little bit more.
Have it take up more space on your screen.
Yeah, you're gonna get a little bit more. Okay. Now you can see a lot more of it. So if you're here where this, I should get product placement sponsorship because of this, and you are searching for something over in this realm, but what you really need is this realm, then as you go in that direction, you're getting further away from what you really need. And so all the things that you're looking for are going to be the wrong things, but you're also further away from the right thing. And that's a problem. That's an issue. So we have to understand the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. And most people, in my experience, are doing what I just said, although it's usually the opposite. They're not searching for self-esteem when they really need confidence. They're searching for confidence when they really need self-esteem. So let me explain the distinction between these two phrases, these two concepts, the way we use them. I don't know if they're maybe defined in other ways, but the way I'm using them right now is self-esteem is the value that you perceive in yourself as a person, your value as a person, your self-worth. That's your self-esteem. And esteem, I believe, does mean like how much you value something. So self-esteem is value in yourself as a person. Confidence or self-confidence, even if it's self-confidence, but confidence on its own is the value that you perceive in your skill set. Meaning, do you believe in your abilities? Do you believe in your abilities to take the stage and speak? If you do, you have confidence in your speaking. But if you don't believe in your value as a person, you might take the stage with confidence in speaking, but no self-esteem. It's actually extremely rare that people lack confidence, but have a high self-esteem. When that happens, we can fix that problem really quick, because confidence is really just about practicing a skill set. If you practice a skill set, then you learn to be more confident in your abilities to perform that skill set. And that is a short time frame generally. But if you don't believe in yourself as a person, you can practice the skill sets all day long. In fact, you can get really, really good at all the skill sets. But you'll be in that situation that I just showed, that you're moving toward confidence, which is the wrong target, but you're actually moving away from the right target, which is what you really need, which is why for so many people, it's not a matter of skills. It's a matter of permission. It's a matter of being seen. It's a matter of being heard. It's not a matter of being able to market. If we're talking about building a coaching business, or being able to even perform coaching exercises on the surface, it's not a skill set confidence deficit that most of us have. It is a self-esteem, personal value deficit that most of us have. Now, most of us have that because the world tells us that all day long. We're programmed that way all day long. So because we are programmed in our society to believe that we're not valuable unless we perform, then we think the answer is then to perform. If I perform, then they will like me. If I perform, then they will purchase my stuff, whatever that is, like actual financially in business, or they will purchase me energetically in life. They won't abandon me. They'll give me a place that I belong. So we get programmed to believe that if we can perform, then we can belong.
Yeah.
But the belonging piece is more about self-esteem. All right, so that's my setup. I think you have probably 3 or 3.5 words to say about person and performance. So feel free to say those.
I'm trying to recover from you stepping on my toes. I mean, this is how I spent most of my life. I blended the two, so it didn't even occur to me that my self-esteem was anything that I needed to go and reconnect with or reclaim, because I was truly operating from the mindset that it would come as a byproduct of the performance. So if I could just get better as a performer, if I could just be more perfect or more polished or more pretty or more successful or more better, more whatever, then as a result of that, other people, that was the big thing for me. Other people would then give me my self-esteem, because even though self was in the title, I, like many people, didn't think that it actually came from within me. I thought it was something that was earned.
There's so many gigantic, well, maybe not so many, just a few gigantic, really deep elements to this. The reason that it becomes so problematic for a lot of people is what you just spoke to, that we're programmed that it will come through our performance. So it is a byproduct. Sometimes we call it the if I then I syndrome.
Yeah.
Or when I then I. When I can perform, then I will feel good about myself.
That's right.
And it's that byproduct that sets us up for the disappointment, because when we then get good, and I fell into the same category. This is why this is such a deep issue for me too. When I was, especially early on in my career, and when I was in network marketing and just wanting to do sales and just trying to make money, I thought that if I make money, then I'll feel better about myself. I didn't realize that I actually didn't feel great about myself. But the more confidence I got and the better I got at speaking, the worse I actually felt, because what you just spoke to wasn't happening.
Right.
So when we think in this when I then I pattern, that when I get really good, then I'll feel really good, or then people will tell me that I'm really good and then I'll feel really good. The huge disappointment there is both of those things could happen, but the third thing won't. You could get really good, you won't feel good. People could tell you that you're really good, you won't feel good, because excuse me, those are not the sources of self-esteem. Yeah. So it can here's when it can work. It can work never. That's the universe of the times.
But you don't know me. Like I'm really good. I'm gonna try really hard. Oh.
So it can only work never, meaning your performance cannot make you feel better about yourself. That doesn't mean that we don't want to win and that winning can't make us feel good. Yes, but that's not self-esteem.
Right.
That's enjoyment of the process. And it might feel good. Your identities like feel really good, but that's not self-esteem. That's different.
Yeah.
When our self-esteem trails our performance, then our self-esteem will always be unstable. It'll go up when we win and go down when we don't, and it won't go all that high when we do win, and it'll plummet when we don't, and it won't actually be real self-esteem, but emotionally we'll be on a roller coaster. So we'll never be in control of who we like. Our esteem will never be in control of who we are. So the ultimate answer here, and it's not an easy one, it's not a flip of a switch, but you first have to understand the concept in order to even make any progress toward it, right? The answer is the separation between person and performer, meaning your value as a person does not get determined by your value as a performer. Your value to other people might be determined by your value as a performer. And that's actually healthy to recognize, oh, I can still be really valuable as a person. I can do my performance, and that person doesn't value me. So that person either won't accept me or that person won't buy my coaching product or something. But that's their valuing of the performance. But that also doesn't mean that I suck as a person. So that separation is the answer. It's not easy to get there just because we've been programmed for so long, so deeply that that performance is the way to feel good about yourself. Some of it is explicit, some of it is implicit. But from a coaching standpoint, if you want to be a coach, you have to understand this concept first of all, and then you have to understand how we can separate those two, so that when somebody takes an action, when somebody tries to perform, their value as a person isn't at stake. If it is, then here's what it looks like. I'm going to pitch you my coaching product. I'm going to ask you to do something, whatever it is. And I'm giving you in my hands my self-esteem for you to reject or to accept.
Right.
If you say yes to the offer, then you've simultaneously accepted my self-esteem. If you say no to the offer, then you've simultaneously rejected my self-esteem. The reason that becomes so problematic for us is because it's an emotional failure when somebody says no. And if it's an emotional failure when somebody says no, then we will try to be perfect. This probably the first time you've heard this concept, Michelle. So I would suggest you maybe take notes as just introduction of this concept. But like you mentioned earlier, but you don't know me. And, for the people that don't know you, like there's so much wrapped into that comment. But you don't know me and I'm going to make this work.
That's right.
So the harder we dig in our heels, the worse it becomes, because then we become determined to overcome everything that we're talking about here and prove that we can get perfect and that we can hopefully actualize this decision, this determination that we have. Like, if I can get really, 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 really good at something, I can become perfect at something, then I will win. Then they will love me. Then I will love me.
Right. Well, I don't need to love me because you love me. So I'm good. From that perspective, right?
From that perspective, right.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense from that perspective. And that's how we've been programmed. So it makes sense. Yeah. So let me just finish this coaching thought and then you can add whatever you want. As a coach, we have to understand this concept, because when humans are in this pattern, and almost all of us are, I teach this, I've been teaching it for years. I'm still in this pattern to some degree, nowhere near like it used to be, but I'm still in it. So it's not a flip of a switch, and it's not something that once you become aware of it, it doesn't have you anymore.
Right.
Because it's had you for decades, right? So you can't just go, okay, you let me go, and all the things that I've built my life around, I'm just going to stop all of those things because now I have a new awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a new awareness is the beginning to telling new stories and creating new beliefs and all that stuff. Yes, but it won't just melt off of us. So we as coaches need to understand that when the humans are in this cycle, we create pressure, because now our performance isn't just important, but it's pressurized. Because then we think the better the performance, then the better we'll feel about ourselves. So now we put pressure on the performance because our self-esteem is at stake, and we think that we'll feel better. And pressurized humans do not perform better. Pressurized humans, especially emotional pressure, perform way worse. Pretty much across the board in just about everything. You're not going to communicate better. It's going to be worse. Your relationships are going to be worse. Your sales pitches are going to be worse. Your marketing is going to be worse. Those of you that are in business, we say there's blood in the water. If you have pressure and it's coming from a self-esteem issue, you're bleeding everywhere. You're bleeding on your sales pages. You're bleeding in your emails. You're bleeding in your sales pitches. You're bleeding in your conversations. You're bleeding in your videos. You're bleeding everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's not conscious for us, but you can't change it until it becomes conscious. Mm-hmm. So if this feels like some kind of a slap in the face, or it feels dismissive, or it feels negative in any way, if it feels that way, that's actually because there's probably some truth to it. Otherwise, your body wouldn't be responding. But there's a solution to it. Mm-hmm. From a coaching standpoint, we have to advocate the separation from person and performance for our clients if we want to help them perform better. And definitely if we want to help them live better. It's the only way to do this.
Which is counter to what we've been doing. I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, I've been operating in that pattern for 44 years. So I think part of it is, having the grace and the kindness and the compassion toward yourself to like, hey, there's going to be some areas or some relationships where you get this more quickly, other places that are a little bit more sticky, other relationships that might be a little bit more take a little bit more time, or certain things that you're doing that might be a little bit more challenging for you or for your clients. And so really, the more that we understand this, we can hold ourselves with that tenderness and that gentleness, that we're not like, oh, here again, or why can't I just get over this thing, or force it to happen like we've been trying to force it to happen for a really long time. One of the things that you actually shared over the weekend that really hit me just yesterday was that even if we get really good at following the wrong path, it's still going to take us to the wrong place, right? Or even if we get really good at hitting the wrong target, it's still the wrong target, which goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, right? If what we need is self-esteem and we're chasing confidence, even if we get really, really good at the confidence, it's never going to do what needs to be done within our own self-esteem. And when I say right or wrong in that, it's just what it is that you actually need and what's truly in alignment. And what landed with me so hard yesterday is that it doesn't matter how good, and I am a really good performer. I learned how to be for a lot of reasons. But even inside of that, it's never going to be enough to fill the void. And what you were sharing earlier, Sean, about, even if somebody does say, oh my God, you're amazing, right? They pour into a person and they acknowledge and validate and give all the things that we think we need. And this goes back to one of the videos we talked about in part 5 of the How to Change a Life series is that if my identity isn't in alignment with, and I'll just use you here, with if my identity isn't in alignment with what you're saying to me, then it's just going to go right through me. It's like you're pouring into a cup that has no bottom. So it's never going to be enough to fulfill that until, and this is possible, and this is what I really want people to understand, until we start to separate those two things and then learn how to meet those needs that we're trying to get met through the performance. So if we learn how to do that for ourselves, that which we've been trying to get met through our perfect or flawless or successful performances, then we're free to be able to take action. We're free to be able to make offers. We're free to speak our minds. We're free to say no. We're free to set boundaries, because inside of all of that, we're not dependent upon anybody else to give us something that we don't have in return. We're bringing the fullness of ourselves and our self-esteem into those requests or conversations. And so then anything that anybody else says or does, it doesn't mean it doesn't, disrupt us, but it doesn't, you've said this before, it doesn't destroy the essence of who I am, because I'm not in the boundary that I made.
You said a lot of really, really powerful and important things there. And as you were talking, I was cycling through a lot of areas of my life because essentially what we're doing, if we're in this pattern, is we are performing to not lose. We're not actually performing to win. And because of that, the bottomless cup analogy that you gave, that's what happens. Because even if we win, we don't experience it as a win. We just experience it as a not loss. And that's not the same, because if you don't lose, the very next attempt you take, it's the same pressure all over again, without any evidence that you've won, because you haven't won. You've only not lost.
Right.
Now, I want to say a couple things. No, I don't. I want to say 1,000 things. I'm only going to say a couple things, probably a few times over. So if you are filtering this information through yourself as a person and how it applies to your life, this might either make all the sense in the world, but give you a false positive because now you don't know how to do it. Or it might not make any sense, especially if this is the first time you're hearing the concept, because as Michelle said, we're programmed at an intellectual level to believe a certain thing. And what we're offering right here is the exact opposite of that belief. So if you're looking at it through that lens, it might not make any sense. It's one of those concepts that you might need to hear a while before it lands. Or it might make all the sense in the world, and you might go, oh, this is why I try to perform in relationships or in business or whatever, and this is why it's not working for me. But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to help yourself. So if you're filtering this through the client's perspective as it relates to you and your life, awesome, you need help. You're not going to find these things on your own. We're dissecting this for coaches, because that's what most of our community is. Most of you want to be coaches. So we're giving you the coaching dissection of this. And why this is so important, because as a coach, you can't advocate for somebody and do any of the work if you don't understand what's actually happening here. So we're talking and we're teaching to the understanding of the concept. That is actually not the way for a lot of people, for most people, to go, okay, I get it now, I'm going to apply it to myself. Right. That's not how this works. If you know you need support, get support. We have free coaching calls that we do if you want support. We do free consultations. You can go to coachshaunsmith.com/book my call. We'll put it in the chat so that you can get some support, some free support to check in and see if there's something that we can do to help you in your life in general, or if you are a coach and you want to build a coaching business or whatever, we can help you identify where you are and share some next steps for you and so forth. So get the support. It was just super clear as you were talking that we can be looking at this from two different angles. If you're a coach, you could be going, oh, this is amazing. This is what I need to get my clients to do. Yes. Michelle and I have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in coaching. We can't do this with ourselves. It doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. And the better coach you are, sometimes the harder it is to do the work with yourself.
Totally.
Especially it's like, okay, I know this. Let me just go ahead and do surgery on myself. And let me just go ahead and give myself anesthesia. And then, that just doesn't work.
No.
It should work though, because we're so damn good, right?
Right. Ridiculous.
And that does work one time. There is a time that works though, actually. Do you know what that time is?
Never.
Never. Yeah. That's the time when it works. So those are the two different ways that you could be filtering this information.
Yeah.
The final concept that I want to put in this discussion is what was just said actually by a viewer. I'll put it back up on the screen. Andy, thank you for sharing this. He says self-esteem issues sometimes stem from the dependence on dopamine. Yes. At a neurological level, at a chemical level, what we're searching for in the win of the performance and in the other people telling us how good we are gives us a dopamine hit. And dopamine at a chemical level is very exciting and sexy and short-lived. It's literally like a drug addiction because it is a substance that we can get addicted to, but it's short-lived. So you could drink alcohol, you could inject something in your system, you could have this euphoric sensation for a while, it will go away. When it goes away, you have two choices. Going back to what Michelle said and what Andy even put, you either fulfill it internally or you need another hit. Those are the only two choices. The more that you get another hit, the more often you get another hit, the more dependency you will create on the external fulfillment of that dopamine hit. Now, I also believe that specifically with addictions like that, what you feel in that euphoric moment is not happiness. It's the absence of whatever you're trying to suppress. So it goes right along with what we said. You're not getting a win, you're getting a not loss. And what you're doing is just numbing the pain. Numbing the pain does not equal happiness. No. But if you just create a pattern of numbing the pain, numbing the pain, numbing the pain, numbing the pain, then that becomes the overall behavioral habit. And numbing the pain can be applied to like substance addictions, but it can also be applied to behavioral addictions. A lot of us are doing the exact same thing when we scroll Facebook. We're trying to numb the pain of whatever discomfort we're feeling in the moment, and we're going, Facebook, take me away. Remember the Calgon commercials? It's a bubble bath. Calgon, take me away. Now it's like, Facebook, take me away. Instagram, take me away. Whatever I'm experiencing right now, I'm bored. I don't feel good. I'm having a bad day at work. Something else, take me away. And it could be money, it could be sex, it could be porn, it could be shopping, it could be any form of distraction. We're essentially trying to distract us from the thing that's uncomfortable. And over the course of time, and that gets not cemented, that's not the word I want to use, but that gets like glued to us through dopamine. And it is a chemical that we experience. So it's very, very real. That's one of the reasons why we can't just go, oh, I saw the concept, person versus performance. Okay, I'm going to separate my person from performance and then I'm good. Okay, that sounds fantastic, except all the areas that you're addicted to dopamine hits. Right? And that's why we can't do surgery on ourselves. So I think you all can tell, and please let us know if this is landing for you. We always want engagement. We always want co-creation. We want to know what thought really landed, or any questions you have based on the application of all this stuff. This is a really, really deep conversation in some of our certification programs and some of our longer programs, and we spend hours on it. And how does it relate to marketing, and how does it relate to relationships, and how does it relate to you just as a human, and how does it relate to here and there? So this is a tip of the iceberg part of the discussion, especially when we look at actually moving the needle. So let us know what is landing for you. Anything you want to say, wrapping up the discussion before we start, before I talk about our upcoming events?
What's present to me is that even if you're not present to this happening within you, this is happening within almost every human to some degree. So if you are a coach, if you're a leader, if you're a manager, a trainer, you work with people in some capacity, understanding this concept and what's really underneath what you're seeing at the surface, right? The system that's underneath the symptoms that you're seeing at the surface, symptoms of perfectionism or procrastination or pressurized performance, right? You've got maybe you've got somebody you work with who just puts so much pressure on themselves with every interview or every prospect or every phone call. This is what's at play. And the more that you can understand that, then the more that you'll be able to help them. It's not about creating a new strategy for them until we're able to resolve this. Otherwise, the strategies will only take them so far and then fizzle out, because this is at the root. This is a huge conversation. So definitely get the support, whether it's how do I help my clients, or how do I help myself, or how do I do both? Let us know. And if it's not us, then get that support somewhere else, because this is at the core of your ability to truly be able to transform your life experience, and then through that, the experience of others.
Yeah, systems versus symptoms. I'm glad you said that. It's a philosophy that we fully believe in, and it's really the only way to change anything long term, is to change the system that produced it, rather than just keep focusing on the symptoms. Now, if you like this video, check out that video right there, which is one of the most important success principles for you to understand as an entrepreneur, and it has to do with ignorance. This is the shift that we have to take, and we have to understand that the real me is the only one that matters. The real me is the only one that you care about. The real me is the only one that you can live